Now, I have one job here today. My job is to help you while you are creating content to save yourself your most important resources and make sure that you're not making mistakes that are basically causing those resources to go to waste. Most importantly, your time, money, attention, energy, and focus in your content creation. Now, just so I have a feel for who is in the audience, who in this room is the person responsible for the content that gets created in your company? Meaning when something gets published, the publish button gets pressed, you are the person that is pushing that button. Okay, a few of you here. How many of you are publishing content as an individual entity? It's just you, your name is on it, and your face is on it? Okay, nobody? Okay, how many of you are doing it as a company? You're publishing content as a representative of a company. Okay, got it. Thank you. Put your hands down. Now, what I'm going to share here today, again, I'm going to go over what each of these challenges are. I told you I have 4 of them. And for each challenge, here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to give you a quick little story or anecdote that illustrates and frames the challenge. Then I'm going to tell you what most people think the challenge is. People come to me and they tell me I have this challenge. They have their version of why they're having this issue. Then I'm going to tell you what the real challenge is, which is different from what you think it is. Then I'm going to tell you why I'm right and why I actually know what I'm talking about and why the real challenge is the real challenge. Then I'll explain it, and then I'll tell you what to do about it. Okay? So I'm going to frame it, the fake challenge, the real challenge, explanation, and what to do about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 4 points. After I go through all 4, then I'm going to tell you what I just told you. Then I'm going to take questions, and then we'll be done. Everybody got that? Any questions? Good. All right, let's get started. So, number 1 challenge. And also, you all probably want to know why I'm up here on the stage and what's my credibility for being up here. I'll explain that through my presentation. So the first challenge is what we call the forgettable mistake. Now, my background, as MC just shared with you, is that my background is in professional sports. Now, I played basketball overseas, so if any of you are looking at me like, should I know this guy? No, you probably don't, because if you don't watch basketball overseas, you probably never heard of me. So I started playing basketball professionally in 2005 after I came out of a Division III college. So any of you who follow sports, we got any sports fans in the room? Okay, so any of you follow sports, when you watch March Madness on TV, all right, that's Division I. I was down in the basement of Division III. So coming out of Division III, I didn't really have any prospects to play basketball professionally. So I had to kind of hustle my way, sell my way into playing pro ball. And I started playing overseas. My first job was in Kaunas, Lithuania in 2005. And that same year, I started publishing content to this brand new platform that they said, this was their sales proposition. They said, you could post as much content as you want, completely for free, video. It was called youtube.com. This is 2005, so I do literally mean it was literally brand new. So I started publishing all these videos on how to practice basketball. So it was just me in the gym or on the court, just practicing basketball by myself. And all this is connected to the topic here today. And I started putting all these videos out. And at the time, this is a brand new thing. Nowadays, you go online, everybody's showing their workouts and their drills and their exercises, et cetera, males, females, every sport. But back then, this was a brand new thing. So I started putting all this content out, and I drew this audience of basketball players who just wanted to learn how to play basketball, because they were basically me, but they were 10 years younger. They just wanted to learn how to play, but they didn't have anybody teaching them how to play. So what I did at this time was I built up a brand and a name for myself, because I was the guy. People weren't looking up Dre Baldwin. What they were looking for was how to learn how to play basketball, and I happened to be the guy who was doing it. And they found out my name later. They didn't really care who I was. They just cared that I was giving them what they wanted. So this is how I started to build my audience online of teaching basketball players how to play ball. Eventually, I started talking about things like mindset and discipline and confidence, all the stuff you need to be an athlete, same stuff you need in business. The point of this, and the reason why this matters to my first point and the first mistake that I'm going to share here today, is that I made myself memorable, notable, and remarkable because I was giving people something that they couldn't get anywhere else. That's the most important thing for how I got started and why it matters to this point. And here's the challenge. It's right there in the quotation. Is when people say to me, Dre, people are seeing my stuff, but they are not taking any subsequent action. So over the years, when I started publishing, if you were to look me up right now, I know some of you may do that, I have 8,000 videos on YouTube to this very day. About 5,000 of them are basketball related. And the reason why people know me even to this day. I haven't played basketball. I stopped playing basketball 7 years ago. But the reason why people still will see me in the streets of Miami today and remember those videos is because I put so much material out there that if you looked up a basketball video between 2005 and 2015, you had no choice but to see me. Now, I'm not telling you that to impress you. Actually, I am trying to impress you a little bit, but I'm telling you that to impress upon you that the reason why I was notable, remarkable, and the reason why people don't forget me even all these years later is because if you looked up that material, you had no choice but to see my name. The challenge that people have is they say, I'm putting stuff out, but people aren't taking any subsequent action. The reason is your material is boring. Your material is boring, it is forgettable, and you're not giving people anything they couldn't otherwise get. That's the challenge. Here's the question that I ask people. I remember years ago, I was at a Toastmasters meeting years back, and I was talking to this woman who was a masseuse, and she was saying, Dre, I want to start putting content out there, but I don't know, how to make myself stand out because there are so many other people in the massage industry around here. How do I make myself stand out from them? So here's the question that I posed to her, and the same question I posed to all of you. If I put you in a room full of let's say we filled this room with all your ideal prospects, people who you want to sell to, people who could buy from you. And I put also on stage with you, there are 9 other people on stage, and all of them are also in your industry. They are basically your competitors. And I'm going to go down the line. Each one of the 10 of you gets to speak. And each one of you, here's the question that I ask you. What can you say about yourself, your business, your brand, your service, your product that none of your other competitors on the stage can say? Now, mind you, you're talking to your ideal clients here. What can you say about you that none of them can also say? If you don't have an answer to that question, this is the forgettable mistake. If I was to take the content, the last 5 pieces of content that your company published, take your name off of it and put my name on it, will anybody know that I stole it from you? Would anybody recognize, hey, that's not your content, Dre, that's his, that's hers. You didn't write that, they wrote that. How would anybody know that it came from you? Is there anything unique or different about your approach or your topic or the way that you share your material or whatever it is that you're doing that stands out from all your competitors? This is a question. It's a rhetorical question from me to you, but it's not a rhetorical question from you to you, if everybody understands what I'm saying. So what do you do about this? What's the fix for this? The fix for this is you have to decide where you want to take a stand. Where are you going to be different? Where are you going to carve out some space for yourself? We're going to talk about this a little bit more as I go on. And the challenge these days, especially with the world that we're in now, a lot of, especially companies, all of you are here representing a company. A lot of companies don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to represent the wrong cause. You don't want to support the wrong idea. You don't want to say anything that can get you in any kind of media firestorm, right? But here's the thing. If you say that wrong thing or that bad thing, whatever it happens to be, all of you who are in business, all you know who your ideal customer is, right? Everybody have an idea who your ideal customer is? When you speak to your ideal customer's mindset and their ideas, and you say something that other people don't like, that's actually a good thing because your ideal customer is going to say, man, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you took a stand. I'm glad you stood on your square and talked about what you're about because all of you are familiar with the concept of attraction marketing, right? You've all heard of attraction marketing? All right, I call this rejection marketing. Have you ever heard of that? Rejection marketing is when you say something that you know some people are going to be pissed off about, but it's okay that they're pissed off because they're on the outside anyway. See, there's no us without a them. And nobody likes to be a part of a group that everybody can be a part of. We like to be a part of things that are exclusive. So if you want to be memorable and not let your stuff be forgotten, not have your stuff be boring, not have your stuff just come and go, not have your stuff be replaceable by your competitors, then figure out what can you say that creates an us so that there's also a them. What makes you stand out from everybody else in the group? Why are you laughing? I say something funny? Is my fly open? All right, second challenge. So the first one is the forgettable challenge. Second challenge is the ownership challenge, ownership mistake. Example of this, I had a member of one of my mastermind programs. She was saying to me, she's in the fitness industry. And she said, Dre, I noticed all these people in the fitness industry on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. They're posting reels and photos and videos and all this stuff of their workouts. And I think I need to do the same thing. So they started publishing all this content stuff, and they weren't really getting any response. So they said, Dre, I'm posting all these photos and reels, but not doing anything. The real challenge here is not that your content is not doing anything. It's just that you don't have ownership of a certain space in what you're doing. What I mean by that is this. In an industry like you ladies here at this table, what industry are you all in? Multifamily real estate. Okay, so you have a lot of competitors. There are a lot of people who also do multifamily real estate. So when you create content, the ownership space is really figuring out what niche can you dominate in that space. So when people are looking up multifamily real estate, they know that it came from you, or that what you're saying, you have ownership of, compared to the other 10 companies that are also doing multifamily real estate. So to give you an example, when I was doing basketball back in the days, there are a lot of different ways you can talk about it. You can talk about the NBA. You can talk about LeBron James and Miami Heat. You can be a coach, talking about how you teach your players how to practice 5-on-5. My niche was one person on the court by yourself practicing. Just one person. You have no equipment. You have no help. You have nobody else with you. How do you practice? I dominated that niche. So when someone looked that up, they found me. But I wasn't trying to be everything to everyone. Ownership challenge is you figuring out what space can you dominate to where when someone looks that thing up, they only see you. And when someone looks up you, they know you're the person for that thing. So this woman, for example, the example that I'm giving you of being in the fitness industry, there are a lot of different things you can talk about in fitness. There are, woman just had a baby. She wants to get back into her pre-baby weight. Someone just had some type of operation or surgery and they want to recover and get back in shape. There's the weekend warrior athlete who wants to run a couple triathlons and do a 10K. You can help them with that. What is the space that you're going to dominate to where you own that square, to where when anyone looks that thing up, they see you? Or if someone's talking to their friend and they say, hey, you know what? I want to buy some multifamily real estate. Who has some material on that really knows their stuff? They should mention your name. That's what the ownership is. The fix for this is building your library to where every time somebody looks that thing up, mentions your name, mentions your area of expertise, you're coming up over and over and over again. That's how you take ownership. My question to you is, what subject do you own? If we were to look you up now, look up your company, look at the last 10 pieces of content that you created, could somebody tell that you're the person in that space, or you're the entity, let's say, in that space, as most of you are coming from representing a company, so that your material actually starts doing something? And understanding that, when I get to the next point, we'll understand that when you put out content out there, it's not necessarily always about the stats. It's not always about the buyers or even the clicks, even the likes or the comments or the whatever other vanity metrics the platforms will have you thinking that you need to measure. It's about more than that. It's really about taking ownership of a subject so that you own that space in the minds of the people who you're serving. Now, ownership is not about owning, it's not you owning, it's when your clients or your audience think about that thing or think about you, you come up, and vice versa. Everybody following me so far? Okay. All right, so the first two challenges we have: forgettable challenge, ownership challenge. Third one is the false mistake. Right. Anybody here seen the movie The Karate Kid? The original Karate Kid, not any of that. I think there have been a few remakes. Okay, the original one. Okay. All right, so anybody here didn't see it? Don't know what I'm talking about? Okay, so everybody saw it. All right, so just a quick recap, because I know it's a kind of old movie. So there was this guy named Daniel, young kid. He came to a new town. Nobody really knew him. And he was getting bullied by these other kids in the town. They all knew martial arts, so they would just come beat him up all the time. So Daniel's getting beat up by all these kids. And one day, he's getting beat up by these kids again. And this old man comes out of nowhere and basically saves Daniel. He beats up all the kids. And this guy looks so old, you're looking at him, you wouldn't think he could even fight. But he beats up all these kids with ease, saves Daniel, and Daniel's looking at this guy like, who is this guy? How is he able to even do this? So he goes to this old man who just saved him. He says, hey, sir, can you teach me what you just did so that I can stop getting beat up and bullied by these other kids. And the old man says, and I'm paraphrasing, by the way, he says, all right, yeah, come to my house tomorrow. I'll teach you how to do this. So Daniel, this kid, teenager, he goes to this old man's house, and the old man says, all right, I'm going to tell you what to do. I want you to do it exactly as I tell you to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. Just do what I tell you to do, and I'll teach you how to fight. All right, you want to stop getting beat up, I'll show you how to do it. So he gives him 3 jobs. He says, I want you to paint my fence, I want you to sand the floors, and I'm going to teach you how to wax on and wax off. Those are only 3 things I want you to do. And don't just do it how you want to do it. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Do it exactly as I said. So for the next 3 or 4 days, Daniel is at this old man's house painting, sanding, and waxing. Now, of course, Daniel was wondering, what does this have to do with me learning how to fight so I can stop getting beat up? He doesn't quite understand. And yes, this all has something to do with what I'm talking about. So he's doing this for 3 or 4 days. At the end of maybe the 4th day, he goes to this old man. His old man's name, by the way, was Mr. Miyagi. And he goes to Mr. Miyagi, and he's like, wait a minute, man. I came to you because you were supposed to teach me how to fight. All you had me doing is basically free slave labor at your house, painting, sanding, and waxing. What does this have to do with teaching me how to fight? You're conning me, man. You're just using me to get free labor. And Mr. Miyagi is a very calm old man. He's not really reacting to anything that Daniel's saying. Finally, he stops. He stands in front of Daniel and says, okay, Daniel, show me the motion that I told you to do when I told you to do the sanding. And Daniel starts doing the motion, and he says, no, don't halfway do it. Do it the way exactly as I told you to do it. And Daniel starts doing the motion, and then Mr. Miyagi tries to hit him, and he blocks it. Then he says, okay, show me when I told you how to paint the fence. Show me the motion that I told you to do to paint the fence. And Daniel starts doing the motion. Mr. Miyagi tries to kick him. He blocks it. Then he says, well, show me when I told you how to wax. How did I tell you to do it? And Daniel does the motion. Mr. Miyagi tries to hit him again, and he blocks it. Then Mr. Miyagi just throws a bunch of punches and kicks at him, and Daniel's just blocking everything instinctively. Now, mind you, Daniel didn't know how to fight a week ago when he came to Mr. Miyagi. And without even saying it, Mr. Miyagi has demonstrated to Daniel that over the last 4 days of doing what I told you to do, slowly, you are learning the exact thing that you came here to learn. Now, I know what all you were thinking. What the hell does this have to do with content? Let me tell you. All right, this is the faucet mistake. Faucet mistake is that when you are creating content or publishing anything online, that's all content is, it's material posted online for free. You are thinking that just because you turned on the faucet of publishing, that all this ROI is supposed to come out of the spigot. That's not actually the way it works. The way it really works is the same way Mr. Miyagi was teaching Daniel, which is instead of pouring, you are dripping. Now, out of the faucet is a drip. It's not going to be a pour of all the water. It's going to slowly drip day by day, piece by piece, content by content. You are slowly dripping and building a relationship with your audience. The same way Mr. Miyagi is teaching Daniel to build a relationship with these self-defense skills and tools that he eventually built up in him over time. Let me explain this a little bit deeper. When I was publishing my content, one of the things that I wanted to do when I first started publishing, I remember around 2009, Google had purchased YouTube. And then they announced, because any of you who was publishing, is anybody here publishing before 2009 content? Nobody? Okay, a couple people over here. Okay, so you all remember, you're publishing content between 2005 and 2009-ish. You were like a bum living in your mom's basement. You needed to get a job because there was no money to be made from publishing content. So when Google purchased YouTube, they announced, okay, now you can actually make money from publishing your content. We'll run ads against it. You can at least get a couple dollars every month. When I first realized that, I said to myself, here's what I'm going to do. Since I know my industry at an expert level, I'm just going to build a library of everything that I know about basketball. I'm just going to publish it on YouTube. And I'm just going to slowly drip so that when somebody comes across me, they're going to go deep down into the rabbit hole of everything that I have, because everything they need on this subject, they're going to know I'm the guy. Has any of you ever done that? You go into somebody's content, you never heard of them before, you watch one video, and before you know it, you've been sitting there 3 hours watching everything they put out or reading everything they ever made. And then eventually, it might take a week, it might take a month, but you eventually buy something. And then when you talk to that person or they reach out to you or you have a conversation with them, you say, man, I came across one thing that you did, or one of my friends sent me one of your videos or something like that. And then I went down the rabbit hole and I eventually ended up buying something. Why? Because that person had such a deep library of everything that you needed on subject X, that you just went further and further into their world. Has anyone ever done that? Okay, everybody's done it. So you want to flip that around, and you want to make sure that your company, or you personally, you're that person that somebody can just go deep, to where it's day by day or week by week, however often you're publishing, somebody is just going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole with you. Because again, it's not a faucet. It's not like you're turning on the fire hose and you give them everything you know in 1 hour. It's over the course of a year, over the course of 10 years, over the course of 20 years, you just keep consuming somebody's stuff, or they keep consuming your stuff, to where when it's time for them to make a purchasing decision, you're the only person that they're thinking about. So you'll notice that the faucet challenge, the ownership, the forgettable, all of this stuff goes together. Each one of these, when they're done right, they compound on each other. And when they're done incorrectly, they also compound on each other. So this is the faucet challenge. And what you're going to do here is build that library. So this is what I tell people when they're creating content, at least when they get started. I want you to write down everything that you know about your particular area of expertise. Yes, everything that you know. Write down every challenge that people have that they know that they have, meaning the questions that people come to you with when they need to buy something from you. What are they looking for? What are the questions that your actual customers come to you with? Those are the things that they know is a problem. Then, here's the second level. What are the challenges that they have that they don't even know they have? As an expert in your industry, you know this. There are probably more challenges that they don't know they have that you know about. Those are the questions that you're going to answer for them. You're going to answer the questions that they don't even know they need to be asking. What are the biggest misconceptions in your industry that you need to clear up with people before they can move forward? What are the biggest mistakes you see people making over and over and over again that you can help resolve for them? What are the things that you or your company does differently from others in the industry that makes you stand out and makes you different from everyone else who's out there? You're going to write down every single thing, basically everything that you know. If you were to write a book and you had to make an encyclopedia, you know those 4 Dummies books? So take your industry, 4 Dummies, and write down everything somebody would need to know if you were contracted to write one of those 4 Dummies books. Write it all down, and then that's your content calendar. You need to make content about all of those things. And here's the thing that's going to happen when you start doing it is, first of all, every time you put something out, you're going to come up with another idea. Like, you know what? I talked about this, and I'll also talk about this. Sometimes when you're writing or in the middle of speaking, in the middle of a video, you're going to think about something else that you need to say that you haven't said yet. You're going to make content about that. As your audience grows, somebody's going to ask a question. They're going to leave a comment. They're going to say something that shows they have some type of assumption that is incorrect that you need to clear up. You're going to talk about that. The more material you make, what's going to happen is your ideas are going to start to make babies. We call it idea sets. So your ideas are going to make babies, and you combine idea number 12 with idea number 24, and now you got idea number 37. So they start combining, and you come up with new material. This is the way that you build your content library. And understand that building this library doesn't mean you necessarily have to own a specific subject matter. Sometimes it's the subject matter. Like I said, with myself in basketball, it worked then because I was brand new. But if I was coming out right now, could I be the guy in that particular space? Probably not, because there's too many other people doing it. You'd be a fish in a very, very large ocean. It's not even a pond. But what you can own is an approach. You can own a subject matter, a strategy, an approach. So how do you find out what approach you can own? Here's what you do. Everyone here, whatever company you work for, does your company have at least 20 people who have bought from you at some point in the history of your business? Anybody here have less than 20 customers or clients? Everybody here has at least 20, right? Okay. Go to those people, and here's what you say to them. Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospect, Mr. Client, because they've already bought from you. We know that we're not the only people in the world who sells X, whatever it is that you offer. Right? So, knowing this, why us? Why do you buy from us when you have all these other options? You could get this from somebody else. Somebody else can serve the same need that we serve for you. Why get it from us? They're going to answer. Talk to at least 20 of your past clients or customers and ask the same question. Make the statement, we know we're not your only option. Why'd you choose us? What do you get from us you can't get anywhere else? They understand that they have other options. All right? It's not a secret. So let them answer. You talk to at least 20 of your clients or customers. you're going to start noticing some commonalities. You're going to hear some of the same things over and over and over again. And it will be something around subject matter, approach, or something that you do that makes you different from all the competitors out there, because they shopped around. Like, most of the time, they're not only looking at you, they looked at a bunch of options before they came to you. You're going to notice what the commonalities are. Your content should be based around those commonalities. That's the square that you own. What is going to be that square for you? So these days, my material, I told you I stopped playing ball years ago. These days, my material is more around mindset, strategy, accountability, execution. I'm more like the kick in the pants type of guy that people come to. And I ask people this question: what is it about my material that draws you to me? Because you can get this from other people. I didn't invent it. I'm not the only person in the world doing it. And they say, well, Dre, I like the fact that you keep it real, that you're direct, you get straight to the point, no brass tacks, no BS. You just get to it. All my content is based around that. So if you were to look me up, that's what you're going to see. It's not that I necessarily own a subject matter or I own a topic these days. It's that I own an approach. So people know, and I ask them, when you see that I sent you an email, or you see that I put out a new video, or I put a new podcast episode up, what are you expecting before you even read it, watch it, or listen to it? What are you expecting to get before you even open it up? And they say, Dre, I know you're going to be direct. I know you're going to keep it real. I know you're going to get straight to the point. So all my material is based around that, because that's what people want from me. And understand that your content needs to be based around what people want from you. Not what they want, period. Not what you think they need. And not what you think they should want from you, but what they actually want from you. And when you talk to your clients and your customers and your audience, they will tell you what it is they want from you. And you need to give it to them over and over and over again, because when you give people what they want, they will give you what you want. Over and over. So this is the faucet challenge. Don't think about turning on the faucet and fire hosing people with everything you have. Just slowly drip on them, because you are building that relationship over time. Just think about your friends. Think about your relationships. Those relationships build over time, day by day. You don't build it. You don't meet somebody at a bar and get down on one knee and propose to marry them right there on the spot, right? All right. And if you did, they probably wouldn't say yes, or you wouldn't say yes. They asked. Your best friends didn't become your best friends in one day. And slowly, over time, you build that relationship. Same thing with the people in your audience. The same thing with people who are your customers and clients. They slowly build that relationship with you by going through your material and you proving through the free stuff you put out that you can help them out. And if your free stuff is this good, imagine how good the paid stuff is. My mindset, whenever I publish content, and I even say this publicly, is that my free stuff is better than my competitors' paid stuff. And if my free stuff is that good, then I don't have any competition, because my competitors can't keep up. So this is the faucet challenge. So we got forgettable, ownership, faucet challenge. Fourth one. There we go. Content mistake. Notice that I have the word content in quotation marks. So this is the person who says, Dre, I want to create content. I want to put a bunch of content out there, because we all understand if you put enough content out there and it's good and it's getting response from people, it's getting engagement from people, that more people will know about you. You don't have to pay to publish content. And basically, you're getting free leads to come into your world because your content is working for you. Everybody understands that concept. The challenge is, somebody will say, well, Dre, I want to create content. I just don't know what to post. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to create. It's hard for me to create content. It's excruciating for me to create content. It takes me a whole day to make some new content. I don't know what to do. I want to make content. I just don't know what to post. Anybody ever have that challenge? Okay, a bunch of you. All right, I should have started with this one. All right, content challenge. Let me ask a question. Who in this room over the last, let's just say the last 18 months, we're about in the middle of the year, so all 2021 and so far this year, who in this room has been on at least one vacation? All right, put your hands in. How many of you have been to a family gathering, at least one family gathering? People who don't live in your house. Okay. How many of you have been to a brunch or dinner? How many of you have been on an airplane? How many of you have been to a bar or a club? Okay. Now, of everybody who raised your hand for any of those things that I just said, how many of you do any of those things for a living? You actually get paid to do them. Okay, so all of you do stuff that has nothing to do with what you do for a living. right? All right. Here's the reason why I'm bringing this up. Human beings buy from other people. People buy from people, right? So when you're trying to create content, in quotation marks, content, usually the reason why you get stuck is because you're trying to talk about your area of expertise. That's why you get stuck. You're trying to come up with something around the concept of what does your company do, sir? Okay, digital marketing. So sometimes you can get stuck trying to create content because you're trying to come up with an idea about digital marketing. Does that ever happen to you? All the time. All right, sir, what's your company do? Yeah, you, with the staff shirt on.
Same thing, freelancing in digital marketing.
Say that again?
Same thing, freelancing in digital marketing.
Digital marketing, okay. And when you're trying to come up with an idea that is specifically around what you do for a living, this is when we get stuck because we're pigeonholing ourselves into a box. But you all just proved that you do a whole bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with what you do for a living. And here's the thing you need to understand, so do your customers. Your customers do not think about what you do for a living nearly as much as you do. And they don't want to hear about it nearly as much as you want to talk about it. You don't even talk about it all day. They don't want to talk about it all day. My material, if any of you were to come into my world, 60 to 75% of the stuff I publish has nothing to do with mindset, strategy, or accountability. I got in an argument with a flight attendant on American Airlines about a month ago. I wrote about that. I went to go pick up a pizza, and they messed up my order. They thought I was an Uber Eats driver. When they realized I was an actual customer, they picked up their pace to get my pizza done. I wrote about that. It has nothing to do with what I do for a living. Why am I telling you this? Because how many of you, before I tell you that, how many of you are B2B businesses? You sell business to business. Okay, a few of you. How many of you are B2C, business to consumer? How many of you B2G, business to government? Okay. All of you are lying. All right, everybody who just raised their hand, you're lying. All right. The business you're actually in is P2P, person to person. People buy from people. Even if your company has the best products and you're representing the company and that other person you're selling to is representing the company and you have the best deal and this makes perfect sense for them to buy from you. People buy from people because if your customer does not like you as a person, they ain't buying from you. All right. I'll go spend more money with somebody who I like than I'll give money to somebody who I don't like. We all agree? How many of you have ever been to a business where you liked the product, but you had a bad experience with the person working there and you decided you will never go there again? Any of you ever had that happen? Okay, I just had it happen yesterday. I won't name the place, but it did happen. Okay. No, I'm not going to name it. I can't even pronounce the name. We'll just say that. But I know I can tell you the directions of where they are and all that. Anyway, we are all P2P. We're people and we sell to people. And as consumers, we buy from people. We buy from people that we like. And people buy from us because they like us. So your material needs to be humanized. Humanize your material. Talk about what actually happens in your life. Your child had a birthday party. Write about it. People want to know about that. Why? Because you're human. They have kids too. Your kids had a birthday party. You had a bad experience with a customer service representative. Guess what? Your customers had those experiences as well. They want to know that you are actually a human being. Personalize what you're doing. Most of this stuff, like I said, most of the stuff that I talk about has nothing to do with my quote unquote expertise. It's about me as a person. Now, you all may have, it may be a little bit more of a challenge for you if you're representing a company, but have this conversation internally with your organization. That organizations are run by what? People, right? Aren't you all human beings? Yes, the company is an entity, but it's run by humans. Be a person. Be a human being. Talk about what's actually happening in your human life, in real life situations, because all of you, yes, you're at work at sometimes, but when you're off work, you're doing things that have nothing to do with what you do for a paycheck. Talk about that stuff. People want to know that you're human. They want to know that they can relate to you. We buy from people who we know, like, and trust. How does the know, like, and trust factor get built? Just like I talked about in the faucet challenge, as you are slowly dripping and giving people a little bit of yourself every time that you publish, what are you doing? You're building know, like, and trust factors. Let me ask you a question. If I offered all of you a chance to be in a room full of people that are your ideal prospects, but they all had to come from one particular source, what source do you want those people to come from? One source. It could be a cold ad. It can be from your content. It can be a referral. It can be some mail that you sent out. Where do you want those ideal clients to come from? They could be all from one source. Where do you want them to come from?
Referrals.
Referral and word of mouth. Why? Why are they the best customers? They trust you. They trust you. Why? We call that a warm lead, right? Why do we want warm leads? Because the know, like, and trust factor already exists. When you create content and you're slowly dripping on them every time and you're humanizing your material, here's what you want to happen. And all of you said you've done this before. You've gone down a rabbit hole in somebody's material. How many of you have ever gone down a rabbit hole with somebody's material? You have never met that person in person, but you feel like you know them. Any of you ever had that happen? All of you have somebody that you've gone down that rabbit hole and you're like, I feel like I know this person, but I've never even met them. You want your clients and customers saying that to you. You want them saying, I feel like I know you, even though we never met. Because people who we know, like, and trust, that we're not wary of them when they make us an offer. We're ready to buy. That's a warm lead. So understand that your warm leads don't necessarily have to be referrals. Your warm leads can be people who are just following your material because it's humanized and you're slowly dripping on them, not turning on the fire hose, but you're slowly dripping on them who you are, what you're about, that you can help them, of course, but also that you're human. Because again, how many of you have ever just gotten somebody, they're giving you a bunch of material and they just told you how great they are and how many people who they serve and how much they can help you with their expertise, and you're like, man, I'm just ready to buy. Maybe sometimes, but oftentimes we got to warm up to people, right? We have to warm up and know that this person can help us. And the more we can humanize that relationship, the easier it is to make the sale. You want people to feel like they know you just from the material that you're putting out. And that means you are not trying to create content. Stop trying to make content. Be a human being. Just give them some real life stuff. This is what we connect with. You're not friends with people because they tell you how great they are at work, right? You're friends with people because they tell you their human experiences. You can do the exact same thing. So in conclusion, I don't know if I even made a conclusion slide here, but yes, I did. All right. 4 things. Number 1, say something unique that makes you stand out from everyone else in your space, that makes you notable, remarkable, and memorable, meaning people will take note of you, they have a remark to make about you, and they remember that you exist. Do not be boring. Number 2, own your approach. Your approach or your subject matter. You can't dominate the subject matter. Usually there's only one person who dominates the subject matter. Own the approach so that when people know you're coming, they know they're going to get it a certain way. Play the long game and drip on people. Don't try to turn on the fire hose. Just slowly drip on them and be a human being in your content and the things that you are sharing. Now I have, according to that clock over there, is that accurate? Okay. Well, I have a slide for questions, so thank you. All right, questions. All right, there's the speaker box is there. So is somebody going to speak up first and ask a question? Or is my material just so amazing that nobody has a question? All right, there we go. Thank you, sir.
Is this on? You can hear me?
Yes.
All right, awesome. My name is Mark Jacobs. When you say to post things, and you came from a background of YouTube, posting mostly videos, but you're talking about writing things. Where are you posting these things that you're writing for your personal life experiences?
Good question. What's your name again, sir?
Mark Jacobs.
Mark Jacobs.
Yes, sir.
Mark Jacobs, like the designer?
Just like that.
Okay. All right. So Mark Jacobs says, where I talked about how I came, my background was on YouTube, but I also have spoken about writing. So where do I post the stuff that I write?
Yes.
Yeah. So I posted on my website. I have had a blog. I post on LinkedIn. I post on Facebook, and I send to my email list. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so I actually, before I got Mark to answer your question even further, I got known by putting videos on YouTube, but I was actually blogging before I got on YouTube. But I didn't get known from blogging. I got known from YouTube. But I have done a lot of writing. I'm a big writer. If I had to pick one between YouTube and writing, I'd probably choose writing. Because readers spend more money than YouTube viewers, in my experience. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. You answered my question.
Yes, thank you for asking.
Next victim.
I actually have one already over here, but I was just curious, how much has your industry changed from like YouTube to like now you see TikTok coming in the picture? Like, are you doing a bunch on TikTok now? Are you making videos like that? Are you still doing content there? Or what does that look like in your industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's your name, sir?
Jacob.
Jacob.
Yep.
Okay, so the question was, I told you I used to do YouTube, and you're saying, how have I evolved?
Yeah, like have you evolved into just doing stuff directly? Like, are you still doing YouTube? Are you doing smaller stuff on TikTok to bring people in, and then just straight go back to YouTube? Or I just was curious what that looks like in your industry.
Okay, so the question is, how have I evolved in my industry? I do not use TikTok. I don't. I still do publish to YouTube. I do more podcasting now. My biggest platform is my podcast. Mine is just a solo show, just me talking, just like what you just heard. But I still do YouTube. I still write a lot. I do a lot of writing. And my best clients usually come from my podcast or something that I wrote. So that's really what I focus on now. But back then, basketball is a visual thing. Like, you can't just write about basketball. You got to actually do it. So I was playing. So that's why I was showing it visually. I still like YouTube because it's like the new TV show. But my biggest thing is the podcasting and the writing, because those are the people who are attracted to me. So it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, Jacob, is what do people want from me? Like, I got a ton of things I think I'm great at, but I got to go off of what the market is saying. The market is telling me they like this, so I got to focus on that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Thanks.
Yes. All right. Can we take any more questions?
I have one more. Talking
Sure.
about blueprint, do you have any example of a personal brand that has impacted you the most?
A personal brand that has impacted me the most?
Like a mentor or some example?
Some example of a personal brand that kind of has followed what I've talked about here?
Correct.
Well, I'll use myself first of all, but I would say there's a guy that I was following. He actually just passed away a couple months ago. His name is Kevin Samuels. I don't know if any of you have heard of him, but he was a guy who was talking. He was talking a lot about personal development for men and relationships, and his stuff was really good because I related a lot to his approach. He was very direct. He got straight to the point. So I saw a lot of my approach and his approach, even though we're talking about completely different things. He's a good example. Some of you are familiar with Cardone. He's a South Florida guy. I'm familiar with his stuff. He's really good on that. His approach is not that he necessarily owns a topic, but his approach that he's always talking about: go bigger, go harder, do more, go further. Stop trying to minimize yourself, make yourself bigger, and have the balls to go harder. That's his approach. You know, anytime he talks, that's what he's going to give you. So that's an example of owning an approach rather than owning a subject matter. Because again, how many people can dominate golf is Tiger Woods, tennis is Serena, like basketball, you got LeBron and Michael Jordan. There can only be one. But you can own an approach when it comes to that thing, and there's a way of talking about it that somebody can dominate. So Grant's probably a good example that most of you have probably heard of. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
There you go.
Can you pass it to Mike?
There you go.
Nice guy.
Do you get more revenue from your digital attention or more from like your services? Like views
Question is,
and
do I
engagement?
make more revenue from digital attention or from services? So you mean like somebody finding me digitally, never meeting me, but buying something?
Yeah, like on your blog, if you got a certain amount of views, you got paid for that.
Right. Versus like me shaking
Someone.
somebody's hand or getting on a Zoom call with them one-on-one.
Yeah.
I would say probably it can vary depending on what I'm focusing on. So if I put more money into ads, I'll make more money digitally. But services that are usually higher ticket because I can charge somebody more for the direct attention or at least more attention, even if it's in a group program. So I would say it depends on how much I want to turn up that faucet, how much money I want to give to Mark Zuckerberg, and how much ads I want to run. So it really just depends. But if I wanted to focus completely on digital, I could do that. But the ad costs, you all know, the ad costs can vary. So it really just depends on which direction the wind is blowing when it comes to that. And I think we all understand that one day that slap is coming to where that game is going to change again when it comes to advertising. So I really like to build up my internal list to something that I own and not have to depend on Meta. I guess that's what they're called now. Because who knows when they're going to change things on us. They always do. Thank you for the question. Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just you mentioned earlier that you spoke more on like more personal things instead of focusing more on the actual content you were trying to get out there. How do you find a fine balance between too much personal and too much of the actual content you're trying to get out?
Good question. So what was your name, sir?
Devin.
Devin? Yeah. Okay. So Devin's question was, how do I find a balance between talking about like my area of expertise and just talking about my personal, who I am as an individual? There is no balance. I don't think about it. So when I create something, Devin, I write about whatever happens. So if something happens in my life that I think would be interesting and I can find an angle, I write it down in Google Docs and I'll go write an article about it, or I'll make a video about it right there on the spot. Or I'll write it down as an idea and I'll get to it later. But I don't think about, okay, I talked about my personal life 3 times in a row, so now I got to talk about business. I don't think about it like that. I think about whatever is going on, that's what I talk about. Because again, most your customers aren't thinking about your stuff, not even half as much as you think about it. And you don't even think about it all day. All right, so if you really think about it, they only think about your thing when they're ready to buy something in that thing. But you want them to connect with you as a human being first. When they connect with you on a personal level, then it's easy to make the sale on the business level. So if any of you have ever had not so much in America, but any of you done any business internationally, especially in Europe, in America, we tend to be we all focus on the sale. All right, we sit down with somebody and we immediately just start talking business. And if you do business internationally, you're gonna spend the first 15 minutes of that conversation just talking about life. Right? Let's just be human beings for a minute. Then we'll get to the business side of things. In America, this is capitalism. We're all just focused on the money. We're all focused on the dollar. But everywhere else in the world, people want to focus on a personal relationship. And I think that matters a lot. Because when you have a personal relationship with somebody, it's easy to do business. But when all you're doing with somebody is business, that personal relationship may never come into play. Does that answer your question, Kevin? All right, thank you for asking. Now, I will tell you all, I think at events like this, sometimes people make offers. So if any of you want someone who can make really dynamic, creative slide presentations, all right, I'm your guy.
Dre, I have a question.
Where's the question? Yes.
So there can be a hurdle of making a video. It's one thing to have an Instagram account and to take a selfie of yourself and put that up there and get a bunch of likes.
Yeah.
It's like a whole different level to actually speak to the video and put that out there. And a lot of people have fear around that. Did you ever experience that, and how did you get over that?
Good question. So the question is one thing to post a selfie, just a picture of yourself, but it's a little bit more challenging to make a selfie video and actually talk to the camera like you're talking to a human being.
Exactly.
Did I ever have trepidation about that?
Yeah.
Personally, no. I did not, but I understand that people do. And here's what I tell people to do if they have that challenge. And this is where an organization like something like Toastmasters comes in really well. Everybody here familiar with Toastmasters? Any of you don't know what it is? Okay, so Toastmasters is a place where people go and basically practice communication, not only speaking but also listening. But you have to get comfortable talking to a handheld device the way that you're talking to a human being. So it can feel very awkward to talk to this like you're talking to a person, right? So here's what I tell people to do. Prop your camera up on a tripod or on the table, and I want you to just look at the camera, and I want you to talk for 5 minutes without stopping. I don't care what you said. Tell your life story. All right, anybody here unfamiliar with their own life story? Okay, tell your life story and talk for 5 minutes without stopping. You can see the little timer right there in the red bar, right? Talk for 5 minutes without stopping. Then come up with a different topic. Do it again. Then come up with a different topic. Do it again. This is the cliche of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, but it's a real thing. Because as you get used to it and you do it more and more often, then it starts to feel more natural for you. So me, I guess I was more of a natural when it came to the internet. When it came around and I saw it, I knew it was for me. I knew, all right, I can talk to this camera just like I'm talking to you all right now, and it doesn't feel any different. So if you come across any of my content, you'll notice that I'm very comfortable talking in front of the camera. It doesn't feel awkward to me at all. But it's because I have the proverbial 10,000 hours of doing it. So that's where it comes from. But that time, there's no shortcut for that. Does that answer your question? Okay, sure. All right, can I take any other questions? Okay, well, I thank you all for, got one more.
Sorry, one quick thing. Going back to Devin's question here, my name's Landon, by the way. Going back to Devin's question here, do you watch the data that comes in based on your, personal content versus your business content? So, for example, do you watch how many views you're getting on your videos versus how many page views on your blog posts or people reading it or whatever it may be? And then what do you do with that data when you see that?
Good question. So the question is, do I pay attention to the data as it reflects against what type of material that I'm creating? For the most part, no. For the most part, I don't. My biggest thing whenever I'm creating content is I want to pull people into my world. That's all I'm trying to do. I just want to pull people into my world. And the personalized content, a lot of that comes out to people who are already in my world because they already know who I am and they already know what I'm about. And the other thing is, I didn't catch your name, sir.
Landon.
All right, so when I put material out there. I have so much material. I have like such a library of things. I've talked about basically everything that I want to say. I just talk about it in different ways now. I'm basically remixing material these days based on what's going on and different angles of approaching the same content. Because I don't know if any of you know, on YouTube, a lot of people want something new. And somebody will come to me and say, Dre, you have a video on X. And I say, yeah, I made one 3 years ago. They say, well, that's old. You make a new one. I say, I'm going to say the exact same thing. And they say, yeah, I just want the new one. So I remix a lot of material these days. Question. So what I do is try to get people into my world because they already know what I'm about by the time they come into my world. And I have automation emails. I probably have an automation of, 1,500 emails. This is a pretty long automation. But anything that I come up with, I just put at the end of the automation, they eventually get to it. But I don't look at it like, all right, well, the personal stuff is working, the business stuff is not working, because it's all me. My business is me. If you come into my world, you are coming into the world of Dre Baldwin. It doesn't matter what I talk about. Yeah. Somebody might know me from the basketball world, but now I'm talking about mindset and strategy. So you're coming into my world, and my business is whatever I want to talk about. For sure. So if I decide to change my mind next week, then now I'm talking about that. But that's for me. So as a company, your company have to decide what are they going to represent and be about. And people will come with you if they buy into the people in the company. You buy into a person, you're not leaving. When all you're buying into is the expertise or the thing, it's easy to leave that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right, thank you for asking. All right, I think my time is up here. Looks like it is. So thank you everybody for your time and attention.